Hi, this is a DMAIC, Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control project video talking about the die MXR. Title of the project is Eye System Not Robust to Tournament Conditions. Taking a look here, the agenda is going to be to go through all 5 phases, define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, with a finale video kind of to top it off and show a practical test with paint breakage. And just some graphics here showing the systems that we are dealing with. So define. Since its release in late 2024, the die MXR has not been a robust tournament marker. Widespread field reports denote a marker that if a paintball is broken in the breach, the system fails. We have a video here.
So I had a breach break. That's what my breach looks like. And I've got eye failure. This is unacceptable.
So if you go back and look, I had already ran a swab. I had already cleaned everything the best I could. And these 2 eye towers were from that particular instance. And as you can see, just a little bit of paint right there, something that I really couldn't get to without tools and teardowns, took down that marker. I'm not the only person who's had this. This is just the video and data that I had easy access to. So the second phase of a DMAIC project is measure. And I struggled a little bit to think of a quantitative, objective way to measure the eye system for the MXR. And the best thing I could come up with was taking the eye towers and putting them on a G6R set of eye boards. So it's not that different. And with this really nifty sci-fi board, you can actually look on your phone and see an eye view, which out of 1,000 points, these are sci-fi arbitrary code points. It's hard to know what these points stand for. You have an eye threshold where if you are below 400, it counts the eye as being covered. And if you're above 400, then the eye is not covered. So we can use this as a pseudo approximation, a quantitative analysis of how the eyes are performing through the MXR eye towers. And I used 3 sets of eye towers, ones that I had been using for a while, ones that I used once or twice, and then pristine brand new ones. And for just base, as we were measuring them, it turns out the brand new ones weren't the best score, but I got 985, 987, and 979. Now, keep in mind, these scores are kind of just a reference because this is a legacy board system powered by a 9-volt battery. This I beam emitter and this receptor, they're probably have extra power to spare, high output, never fail. Even if I have breach breaks with the system, it keeps going. It can see through paint basically, or almost see through being submerged. So taking a 2x layer of tape, that fell down 20 points here, not as many points here, and not as many points here, and basically all could read here, no issue. But when we got to 4x layers, the reading started jumping around quite a bit, and this one went to 835. This one seemed to be not effective, but it was varying quite a bit. And then 946 for the third one. And when we got to 10x layers of tape, right, all of them could still read, but it was getting close to that 400 level to where it might not read if there was a little bit of extra contamination or vapor or something in between the 2 eye towers. So 985 base, 575, let's call it 625 average after 10x layers of tape. So, and we'll remember this for later. And then the last thing to talk about on this page is when I put IPA, which is isopropyl alcohol, it's clear, it evaporates. The reason why I used IPA is I didn't want to permanently destroy the eye towers. I wanted something that would evaporate away. Once I did that, even with these much stronger, higher voltage, higher amps eyes, the all 3 went below threshold and basically couldn't read anymore because the disruption of the IPA on the guide pipe, as Dye calls it, made it to where the beam was not transmitting across. So that was the initial measure phase, and as I was going through and trying to figure out root cause and try to figure out a corrective action for these, I actually came up with two different ways to modify and improve the existing MXR eye board. And um, my original stock eye board actually became the beam solder board, and I went ahead and just bought an extra stock board. This came from A&S Gear a couple weeks ago, and I just wanted to show for the testing the stock board was new in package when I started. So no contamination, no break-in, nothing like that. It was as it was on day one. So taking a look at the enhanced board, the top three things that this board did was it had a better emitter. It was a OIS 330. It was rated for more milliwatts of output. It had a 40-degree specified cone, and I actually sent more power to the emitter. And this is not the exact resistor, but also any electrical engineers that are watching this, I'm going to use some approximations here. Please don't get fixated on the details, but this is a 200 ohm resistor, and I reduced the resistance to give it more power to a 100 ohm resistor, and that took it from about 10 milliamps to about 20 milliamps. Again, don't fixate on the numbers, but that was about a 14x improvement in output brightness. And just look at these two pictures as kind of qualitative. Um, Turning the lights off and pointing my cell phone camera at it, this is the stock emitter right here. And after boosting power and using a better emitter, I got approximately 7.2 milliwatt MW, and you can see it's a much more defined, it's much brighter, it's intense. And then this is a ugly close-up with a lot of flux still on there and a lifted solder pad, but just kind of explaining how I went about it. I took off the original emitter, I put on upgraded emitters, and I put on a 100 ohm resistor here. This is not the one that I put on. This is just something easier to see. And I wasted money buying that. So that's the enhanced board. It's better in every way, and we'll get into the results for it in a little bit. This is a spec sheet comparing. This is my best guess and pointing GPT at it of what the stock emitter is. It certainly looks like it. The radiant intensity might be more than 1 MW. I think I saw variants of this go up to 2 MW, but they weren't in stock. So hard to say. And this is just going on DigiKey. There's a lot more supply chains. There's more out there than what I have easy access to, but this looks very similar. And the voltages on this one seem to line up, which again, electrical engineers watching the video, yes, this was more voltage. No, it didn't brick the board, and I'm not using it anymore. So it's okay. Nothing broke, nothing bricked. The OIS 330 with a radiant intensity of 18 MW at 50. It's an overgeneralization, but if it's 18 at 50, it's going to be like 1/5 of that at 10. So it comes out to 14 MW-ish when you run 20 milliamps at it. Again, please don't fixate on the numbers. So taking a look at the beam solder board, this is the same original baseline, but the four main points of the beam solder board is a more efficient path. It's a straight line. They're looking right at each other. There's no optical guide pipe. There's no tower to get dirty. It's old school. You know that this is essentially the same thing as a DSR set of eyes. And someone else pointed out that it looks almost exactly like a mini GSI board, which I wish I could say I had referenced that beforehand because that would have made things easier for me, but I didn't know that the mini GSI board was like this until after I had bought parts and started soldering. Uh, and I did not mess with eye power on this. It's the exact same resistors on the back. It's basically like for like, except they're pointing at each other instead of bouncing through towers. And that's what it looked like in a low light condition pointing my cell phone camera at it. And as far as I can tell, um, I can give better part numbers later, but if you look here, voltage forward 1.2, voltage forward 1.2, uh, DC max 50, so this is less than the DC max here, 1 MW at 20, this is 3 MW at 20, so it's a little bit more efficient, but it's calling for the same milliamps. It's basically like for like, except it's a wider cone, which for a direct beam doesn't matter all that much. So before we get into the results for the two boards, let's talk about light transmission in a typical eye tower setup. So it's just the nature of bouncing light around. You start, let's call it 100%, and then you lose. Somewhere I read 5%, somewhere I heard 15%. But the reticle size, right? If the beam is this big, but the opening is only this big, you're losing whatever percent around this isn't making it into the guide pipe. So there's a reduction there, and then it gets bounced. And then this is a cone that is outputted, and you lose some there, and then it bounces back down until it hits the sensitivity cone of the receiver. So you can see here, there's a failure point here, there's a failure point here, there's a failure point here, and there's a failure point here. And that's a die logo, just trying to show how light goes this way and then that way when looking at these eye towers. So what were the results? What did it do? So taking a stock board, not messing with it at all, it could read through 2 layers of tape. But once I did it with 4 layers of tape, eye failure all the way through. Couldn't see. So the enhanced mod, if I go back, was 14 times more power, or 14 times more beam. It could read through 2x layers of tape. It could read through 4x layers of tape. It even read through 10 layers of tape. But the moment I put IPA on that right here, and you see it's kind of fuzzy here when I did it with the Q-tip, failure. Couldn't read. It was done. Just dead. And then with partial paint coverage, we saw this in my field testing, and we've seen it with other people's eye towers too. If you get any sort of partial paint coverage on there, it's dead. It's done. You need to switch to a new set of eye towers. You need to deep clean it. You need to wipe it with a microfiber and make that glass surface here be pristine. So then this beam solder mod, right? 2 layers of tape, no problem. 4 layers of tape, no problem. 10 layers of tape, no problem. Doused it in IPA, still red. I put paint on half of this, still red. And then when I finally gobbed the paint on here, that's when it finally stopped reading. And then I just brushed my finger against it, like, like when you lick your finger and like try to wipe barbecue sauce off your face. I did that, restored function. Love it. Analyze phase, taking a look at the fishbone. I'm going to go pretty quick through this because this is my second recording and it took about 20 minutes to get through the rest of the presentation. Got 4 tools here. This is a constant, something we can't do anything about. This is eliminated, this is confirmed, and this is an open question. So taking a look at eye sensitivity settings being too high or too low, there is evidence that there's optimization that could be done in die's firmware for the board. Looks like they could change it to be more sensitive, but I don't have access or visibility on what those numbers are for their sensitivities, and there are other ways to fix it. So this is a question, but I'm leaning towards it not being root cause because getting anything on the eye towers takes the gun down. Chronoing gun too low, chronoing the gun too high, these are eliminated. You can still get paint breakage and eye transmission failure even if you're shooting 250 feet per second. Any fouling on the eye towers kills IR. I already kind of mentioned it. This is confirmed. Field reports, objective testing, all roads lead to the eye towers being very sensitive to fouling. Loading broken or dirty pods. This is not something that you can control. No one wants to do this, but it will happen to you, especially if you dive. Paintball being dirty slash outside. Also, even if you play indoor, you're going to have dirty conditions. Paintball's a dirty sport. We're literally shooting paint at each other. So nothing we can do about that. Wrong O-rings. Now, there are certain O-rings out there that may reduce your instances of paint breakage, but I am operating under the assumption that you will eventually, in a course of a tournament, break paint, whether it's loading a bad pod, whether it's getting an oblong ball, whether it's uh, turning your gun off and the loader, crushing on tension for 20 minutes in between points. You're going to break one eventually, and we need eye systems that are resilient to this. So this is an eliminated root cause. This is not why our guns are going down. Eye towers are not cleanable. This is confirmed. You really can't get to them. The eye seals are snug into the body, and if you um, use your Allen wrenches to get to the eye board, you pull the eye board, you need pliers or really small fingers and nails to get those eye towers out. And even then, you need a specialized microfiber Q-tip kind of thing to clean them. And if you use alcohol, you need 5 minutes of evaporation before that'll even be good enough for you to use. So they're not cleanable practically, not in the field. Eye towers are not clear enough. Leaning towards eliminating this, but there probably is some margin to make them better, to make them more resilient if you were insist upon continuing to use eye towers. We see that the CS3, the R5, the CS2, other Planet Eclipse markers, they have a kind of similar guide bouncing system that's mounted to metal, and I think it has some like uh, foil on the one side to help with light transmission for reflection to kind of make them better mirrors instead of matte surfaces, but not able to really dive deep into this because the more robust solution was just not using eye towers at all. This next one, die releases do not undergo enough field testing. The NT10, the NT11, the DLS, all really bad releases that um, show a systemic failure in Dye's new product introduction processes. They need to do better verification validation activities. They need to do better 100% inspection before shipping a product. They need to do more and soon. And this is going to be confirmed as a systemic root cause for Dye's problems. But user underbore, overbore, eliminated. User misuse is eliminated. You can do everything right. We have a lot of smart people that use the MXR, and they're all having trouble with getting uh, random issues that cause their eye systems to fail. Um, Already talked about dirty pod. Eye towers sitting behind the tack. Realistically, we're not going to get new bodies. The eye towers are not going to get channels that go up into, through, and breach surface adjacent to the tack. This isn't happening, so it's a constant. We have to live with it. Tack pipe openings allow paint to get to the eye towers. This is true, and it is a contributing root cause, but it's not the root cause because you can still get fouling if paint or lubricant gets on the outside of your pipe and onto your eye towers. That can still cause eye failure. Use of eye towers reduces transmitted IR. There's a lot of evidence that points to this being true, but the gun still works if everything is clean, and it's possible like that you could make, if you had stronger eyes and a more resilient dome surface or something, that you could make this be um, true or not true. So this is not confirmed, and it's not really the direction that, how do I say this? The IR still works even through the eye towers. So it is a question, but not what we're pursuing. Loader tension too high or too low. This is something that people have still had paint breakage and eye issues no matter what loader they're using. Not enough amps to power the eyes. We tried that, still had issues once stuff got on the eye towers. emitter beam too weak, emitter beam too narrow, too wide, all eliminated because no matter what we did with the emitter, even making it 14 times stronger, we could still get really bad eye failures just with something IPA getting on the surface of the eye tower. Taking a look at the analyze, again, this is the second recording and I don't want to necessarily go through the entire thing. Any fouling on the eye tower does kill the transmission. That is a confirmed root cause. We know that from field reports. And the way we light switched that was I just took a Q-tip of IPA and just a little dab on the eye towers. And that immediately killed eye transmission in both the MXR test and the G Sci-Fi board test. And you wait 5 minutes and the IPA evaporates and then it's working again. So that is the light switch. It's confirmed. You get anything clear or otherwise on the surface of the eye tower, you are going to not have working eyes. The eye towers are not cleanable. Again, field reports kind of confirm that, but in testing, um, with the beam solder mod, I was able to just rub my finger on the eye tower, or sorry, the emitter tower, and that got enough paint off of the lens that it started working again. This is not something that you can do with the existing eye towers because they're buried, they need tools to get to, and because the surface is so fragile to contaminants, even if you do kind of finger wipe a eye tower as provided by dye, it's not going to work. So that is a confirmed root cause. The tack openings allowing paint to get on eye towers, really talking about the free flow pipe here. Um, you can't use a tack O-ring and not have any openings in the pipe. So this is going to be contributing, but it's not going to be a full corrective action because of that kind of paint awning that you'll get where the the O-ring goes like this and it kind of arcs over the eye tower that sits right here. No matter what you do, even if you're using an eye pipe, you're going to get paint that goes through that awning and drips down onto the eye tower. But it is going to help. It's going to reduce the direct line of sight between the exploding paintball and the eye sensor, whether it be the eye tower or the uh, um, tower emitter that I soldered on. An eliminated root cause, the emitter is too weak, narrow, not enough power. Because we tried turning it up by 14x and it still had failures once the eye tower got contamination, this is an eliminated root cause and we're not going to be doing any corrective actions for boosting the power. And then dye product field releases, we talked about it, I'll talk about a little more. The NT10, the NT11, the DLS, the MXR, they've all had very grievous bad things come out despite any testing that dye may or may not do in the States from 2009 with the NT10 to 2024 with the MXR. A lot of people would have been saved a lot of grief if they would have done 100% inspection prior to selling us these markers. And it's $1,500. It's a really bad time. And the only verification you need is to take a look at Planet Eclipse. They get their releases right, and the reason why is probably because you see so often taped markers out on the tournament fields running them through the gauntlet before they start selling to regular players like you and me. So that's the last of the analyze phases. Looking at the improve phases, these are the corrective actions and the risks associated with doing them. So if we don't want to use eye towers anymore, maybe we can contract with Sci-Fi 4C or Flory Paintball to make direct beam eye boards, kind of like the Mini GSI board. Um, the Mini GSI board's $22. The Dye MXR board is $30, but you got to figure with a small production run that we would be doing, it would probably be cost of 30 plus whatever the margin would be. No one wants to do all this for free. Um, Looking into it, but we'll have to see. Eye tower is not being cleanable, kind of using these cells again. The risks with modding the boards is they are not meant to have emitter towers soldered onto the pad. And if you do that, and I did it once, I destroyed a board. If you pull on it at all, it'll rip the copper trace right out of the board. So it took a lot of potting and a lot of like care because they are so fragile. The nice part of contracting with Sci-Fi 4C or Flory would be they could make through hole boards that are made for that, and you could have like a nice gasket seal, and it could be like actually professionally done. Whereas this is actually more of a hack, and you're still going to have to figure out a way for eye hole milling. So that's a risk with just modding them. The tack openings, allowing paint to get to the towers. I bought two free flow pipes. I think it's a great path forward. I'm still going to evaluate modifying existing tacks with 832WC. It's a two-part water clear optics grade epoxy that should be see-throughable, but I haven't gotten it yet. But in both cases, the O-ring channel gap is still going to be there, and we don't know if the 832WC is going to work well, and we also don't know how strong and resilient the free flow pipe is going to be against cracking and or scratching. So again, that is a contributing root cause. It's not the pure root cause that contamination on the eye towers is. Dye product release, field testing, verification, validation is insufficient. Only thing I can think of here is to send a strongly worded letter to Billy Wing. He's been here with Dye since the very beginning, or at least as long as I can remember. Don't expect any changes from that, but that is a systemic root cause. So control plan, kind of making sure that things don't go sideways with any of these corrective actions. It's going to be a sober, clear-eyed evaluation of the financial risk for getting someone to do an order for those eye boards. Ideally, Dye would do it. You know, hopefully they see this video and they have enough leverage to open the wallet and order some new boards. And you know what? Hopefully they're already on the boat on their way here. But it's not going to be my money. But we'll see. Dates are TBD on that. For modding boards, there's going to the risk is small because there's not going to be that many modded boards out there. It's a pretty hard solder job to do. And the risk with doing the solder job is there may be an unforeseen risk that I don't know about where you would fry the main board, and you still need to kind of come up with a creative way to plug off the channels that are milled into the body to prevent paint from just getting dumped on the eye boards. But my perspective on this is if you get less usage, like say 2 years instead of 10 years out of the main board because of a little extra power draw, but your 2 years of usage is full usage instead of wall hanger because of eye failure, I'll take that and I'll buy another main board. That's okay. So look for 60 days of extra testing and control on that one to come up with that creative gasket and to do more field testing with maybe one more or two more units. Um, the free flow pipe, the control reaction plan for that is to let free flow know how it works, if they're fragile, what I think. Uh, Already thinking to use creative materials, liquid latex on the free flow pipe to kind of mitigate that O-ring channel that's going to dump paint down. Maybe just a little bit of liquid latex there on the outside of the pipe would create a workable seal to stop paint from getting down and on the eye emitters or the eye towers, whichever one I'm using, probably the tower eye emitter. And I also want to develop the 832WC process just in case the acrylic or whatever material they're using at free flow, it may crack, it may not last forever. It'd be great to have clear windows on the existing V2 tacks and use 832WC. I don't know when free flow is going to ship those pipes, and my 832WC is late. I haven't gotten it yet, so can't give dates on that. As far as a strongly worded letter, hope to send that out within 30 days or so. Don't expect anything from that. We'll probably hear nothing. So the finale. Did it make a difference? Did it work in a real environment? So let's watch the video.
Okay, got a practical paint test going on here. I'm going to try to zoom up on the camera. I've pulled my grip cover. This is the beam solder mod, direct beam eyes directly across the chamber. I've got a DRV on setting 5. Let's see if you can see that. DRV on setting 5. Gun is semi 18, and I've got the most brittle paint that I've ever had. This should be a paint blender. That's the point. And we're defining a win here as if I can't get the eyes to fail, that's a win. Or if I'm able to recover and make the eyes work again with just a finger or a swab. So that's the eyes working, not firing. Go ahead and air it up real fast. See, red, not firing. Let's go ahead and put in the paint, and then see if we can get some breaks. Okay, that's 3 breaks. Now I'm going to hold this thing upside down. All right, that's like 5 breaks. And the eyes are still working. The hopper's popcorning them up, so that's why you might see some green there. So I'm going to just get it going again. And so now eyes are blocked. Shoot some more. Okay, I think we have eye blockage now. So let's turn that off. No, once I turn off the hopper, the eyes are back. My barrel's destroyed. The breech is dirty. Let's go ahead and pull that pipe. So that's not the worst I've seen. But if you look, there is water, like watery paint vapor that has kind of gotten everywhere in the pipe. And I'm looking, and there is paint on the eye. So do I need to do another one of these, or how many shots and how many breaks do I have to make these fail before we can call this better? Because this is already better. So, and the eyes work. You tell me.
So I guess just a little extra context there. There were about 30 breaks. The barrel was starting to drip with how many breaks I got. That paint is watery and it gets everywhere. And I don't think anyone expects a submerged breech to continue working, but like I said in the video, it's absolutely better. And if I have to do a tournament with the MXR, I will be taking this board and not the enhanced board or the stock board. But if you have any ideas on scaling this corrective action up, if you have any ideas on proving it out better, I'm happy to listen. I'm happy to receive help, and I thank you for watching. And you're awesome if you've stuck around for 34 minutes of YouTube video.